Hey superstars, welcome to the Get Rich Without Being a Bitch podcast, and I am your host Vanessa for this journey. We're going to be challenging some stereotypes, shattering glass ceilings, really looking at what it takes to live richly and to design a business that's going to support the life that you really want to be living. I'm going to be sharing lots of tips, tools, and strategies along the way, and I can't wait for you to join me on this journey. Hey superstars, welcome back to another episode of Get Rich Without Being a Bitch. And today we are going to talk about how to charge for your services. How do you actually assess what you should be charging? How do you work out when you should be raising your fees? It's quite a complex topic, and I would say it's one of the questions that probably comes up the most is, well, how much should I charge for this? And, there's always that frustrating response, right? Well, it depends. And it does depend on a whole lot of things. So I want to give you some pointers for how to think about this. Many of the women that I work with are probably guilty of undercharging and overdelivering, right? And if that's you, I think one of the first steps we actually have to do is a little bit of mindset work before we really get into the tactics of looking at the fees and reminding yourself of all of the experience and expertise that you're bringing to the table, right? All the things that you've learned over the years, your schooling, your professional qualifications, your continuing education, perhaps your investment in coaching and mentoring and all of these different things that, make you a very valuable service provider today. It's easy to take those things for granted. And it's also easy to undervalue the skills that feel like they come to you very naturally now. And when we undervalue things that come naturally, we tend to undercharge for them as well. So I think just taking a step back and really revisiting that and reminding yourself is important. The other piece around pricing that's important to remember is people are coming to you for outcomes and results. They are not coming to you for the time you spend together. So getting out of that mindset is going to be key to commanding higher fees. If we're always looking at things through that lens of, well, I spend X amount of time with a client, X amount of time delivering a service, my time is worth this, right? We find ourselves capping that income because there's only so much time in any day, right? There's only so many hours that you can work in service delivery. So it's starting to shift that from time to what are the results your clients are coming to you for? And then thinking about that through the lens of, therefore, what is that worth to them? And what is the value to them? What would they be willing to invest to get that problem solved? Particularly if it is a problem that is pervasive, it's been going on for a long time, it impacts multiple areas of their life and business. Perhaps they've invested previously, they've tried different things, and they're still not where they want to go, right? Often clients present with really expensive problems when we start to dig in deeper to the impact and the cost to the prospect. So again, thinking about the value of solving that over time, and then the ROI that when something is solved for a client, and typically it's going to carry on over a period of time, that's worth an awful lot to them. Now, one of the exercises that I'll often go through with my clients is, what do you really want to be charging? What are you charging now? And what do you really want to be charging? 100% of the time, there is always a gap, right? Nobody is ever charging exactly what they want, and then they secretly are charging this, their secret desire is the same. There's always a gap. And there's a lot of value in exploring that gap. Because often there's a lot of assumptions, right? Around, well, I'm charging this now, but I don't think people would pay higher fees, or I won't know where to find those clients, or they'll say no to working with me, right? There's a lot of assumptions and stories that can keep us at certain fee levels, for example. Same thing, right? There are a lot of assumptions around raising those fees. If I were to charge that, I would lose people. They might think this of me. They might think that I'm greedy. They might think, all of these like bad negative things. Well, actually, they might also think that you're really highly gifted and experienced, and your fees are actually reflecting that. So looking at your own, what are you charging now? What would you secretly love to be charging is a great exploration to do. Now, that needs to be backed up with really understanding the numbers in your business, right? This is the financial strategy behind it, because you need to know how much does it actually cost for you and or your team to deliver the services, right? In other businesses, typically we call this cost of goods sold in a product-based business, but we can still work that out in a service-based business. And if you are not profitable, you are not, for example, able to meet all of your expenses or pay yourself out of what you are currently doing in the business, something is off. You've either got expenses that are way too high for your size of business, and or you are not charging enough, and it's probably the first opportunity you have to make a big shift in your business without having to change too many things. So understanding your numbers, what does it actually take to deliver your services, and all the things you do, right? It's not just the meetings that you might have with clients, but the setup, the preparation, all the emails, all the consultations, everything that goes into it, the things that your team does. Chances are, if you were to really look at that, you'd realize that there's a lot more happening that is not being charged for, right? That's where that undercharging and that over-delivering comes from. Understanding, as I say, your numbers in the business. Where is profitability? Where does it need to be? Some businesses are running scarily close to being one mistake away, or one crisis away from frankly going out of business, because it only takes them to lose one big client and their cash flow is so poor and they're running back down to zero every single month, and they're like robbing Peter to pay Paul every single month. Like, their financials don't stack up. And again, yes, that can be a lot of different factors, but oftentimes I see it's undercharging or inconsistent charging, right, between different clients. So might be legacy charging of fees, and then we've kept clients on for a long time. We've never increased those. We've got new clients, and then, and then we've got the future clients that we want to build. So we end up with this pricing system that's all over the place, and it will show up in those financials and probably is showing up in some stress with you as well. So I really love doing it through that lens of, what are you charging right now? What do you secretly desire to be charging? And then saying, what would need to be true for you to be able to do that? Right? Does it mean that you need to upgrade the type of client you are working with? Sometimes that is true. Sometimes it is simply not true, though. It's just that you need the courage to state with confidence your new fees. Some of you are even been on the receiving end of your clients telling you that you're undercharging. That's something I hear. They're like, wow, I would have paid twice the amount. You could be charging a lot more for this, right? These are indicators that you are undercharging. Reality is as well, but sometimes when we want to charge more, that secret number, we do need to improve some things in our systems, in our onboarding, that client experience. Perhaps you really do know that things are very clunky in the background, and it doesn't feel in integrity to be charging higher fees and commanding those higher fees when you've got some things that need to be sorted out. So again, you want to look at that with a, really good set of eyes, possibly get somebody else's guidance on that as well to really, is it true? Do you really need to change and upgrade these things in order to be able to command higher fees? So lots of different elements that come into play there. The one thing I would say is 100% of the time, our clients have increased their fees, and typically multiple times over the length of time that we work together, and they have never gone backwards, right? That's a big, bold statement. 100% of the time, when we've gone through this exercise, they've increased their fees, they have landed the clients who were willing to pay, and then they've gone on time and time to do that again. So the clients are out there, and they are a lot closer to you than you realize. It's about you making that shift first and foremost. Another question that does come up from here as well is then some of those indicators of when is it time to raise fees. Obviously, if you're looking at your financials and your financials are not where they need to be, particularly profitability, you're not able to pay yourself what you should be able to pay yourself for the work that you're doing and like meet all of those expenses, that's a clear indicator to start to look at pricing. It really is. And it's probably one of the most overlooked strategies and yet one of the simplest, right? And we can make that decision, frankly, from tomorrow. Another indicator for when it is time to raise your fees is when you have absolutely everybody saying yes to working with you. And I've had women admit that they didn't want to raise their fees because they didn't want to hear no. Everybody that they gave a proposal to, everybody that they made an offer to said yes. And they feared getting the no. And so they kept their fees, right, at a very, very comfortable level. At least 20% of your prospects should be saying no. Right? If not, you're charging too low and you're really playing too small and you probably haven't got the best fit clients. So that's, again, another indicator for when to raise your fees. You can also, depending on the business that you're in, and by the way, this does not need to happen in January necessarily, but a lot of people do look at the end of the year and the beginning of the year to look at a fee increase because we look at the cost of doing business, right? All of those other things that are increasing. Cost of living, the cost of services. Perhaps you're having to pay more, right? You're having to pay more to team members. You're having to pay more for certain products and things that to happen. And that's eating away at your profit margins, not to mention your sanity. So again, when those things are happening, those are a very reasonable indicator for time to look at your own fees. And as a general rule of thumb, it has been proven that you can raise your fees by up to 8% without anybody typically making a big scene. So you've got some room to move there. And I would really, really encourage you to look at pricing. One thing I think we don't speak about often enough is the link between premium pricing and then the perception of you as a really top-notch service provider. When you undercharge, subtly we're, seeding in somebody's mind that you're not that good or confident in what you do. And you may well be losing people because of your pricing structure. Versus when you command higher fees, there is naturally this belief that exists societally that you do get what you pay for. And now you want to make sure that you're in integrity and that you can deliver and that you are providing top-notch, first-class service and that your clients are really having a first-class experience working with you. But use some of those prevailing beliefs really to your advantage. As always, superstars, love this conversation. Please like, comment, share below, and I cannot wait to hear you and see you on the next episode.